I have a friend did a PhD in photovoltaic energy, and so we'd have these conversations because I'm obviously super curious about this field. And I remember she used to say that the theoretical limit was 30% for what the sun would shine on a solar panel. We could capture 30% of that to be used. I know storage is a totally different topic, but how has the theoretical limit for what we can capture from solar changed in the last 10 years?
Yeah. So let me quickly tell you first about APT and
Please.
my relation to all of the renewable energy, because it has nothing to do with my space
Okay.
sciences background. So when I was a grad student, sometimes in my home basement, I would just tinker with things because I had been working on a project back in college where we would put solar panels on colleges' golf carts.
Why not?
Because that's what we do
Yeah,
as a
amazing.
other grad students. And then I simply came up with the question of, is there any way we can make a solar panel generate more electricity in a very small footprint so that you don't have to have a giant panel everywhere you go? And that's really the project that I started on my own. Was then the idea of shrinking solar panels into a very small footprint, which meant that instead of a giant panel, what I did was I stacked solar cells, which a solar panel is comprising of many solar cells next to each
Okay.
other and wired together. So instead of putting them on a plane, I put them on top of each other in a three-dimensional configuration inside of a tube. And that's how I generated a lot more power in very small footprint than a typical flat
You
panel.
were the first one to do that?
I was the first one to do that,
That's
and that's why.
that's amazing. I mean, I saw a YouTube video not too long ago where I saw they're starting to stand up panels.
Yeah.
Where I don't think it's exactly what you said, but they're standing up and they're finding that they're getting more efficacy. And there's something else where it seems like they were built in a configuration where there's mirrors, which also generates more.
Mhm.
Are these all different ways depending on the landscape that you have to do, or is the one that you did
Yeah.
kind of like going to be what's rolled out moving forward?
Yeah. So, the idea of three-dimensional solar modules has been out for a long time. So there are certain challenges that you have to deal with, and I don't want to get into the weeds because I know that your question was about the bigger um, topic of efficiency. So, in general, what you deal with if you make so it's a solar panel that takes a lot of space. If you make it vertical, now it's a solar sail.
Okay.
That means that the wind is just going to constantly have to deal with the wind,
Okay.
right? And if it's flat, then you have dust and snow, and bird
Right.
stuff that
Sure.
is going to
Yeah.
build up. And just like Christmas lights, when I told you about the little solar cells that are inside the
Yeah.
panel, if one solar cell goes out, it's just like one Christmas light going out of the entire
Oh.
string, the entire panel
Okay.
is down. Or if one cell is covered and the rest of the panel is fine, the overall power drops because of
Right.
that, the way they're structured. So the way we have dealt with this is that instead of having to fight the wind, our three-dimensional solar module is inside of a transparent window that allows us to simply, so the wind goes around us instead of having to constantly fight the wind.
Okay.
Okay. And when it comes to actively tracking the sun, so you have to turn this giant solar panel to track the sun and fight the wind constantly. And that's when it comes to tracking, it's only very large projects that use tracking. You never see a tracker on someone's house,
Right. Well, yeah,
right?
because that becomes
Because
you're using more power to track the sun, so probably the energy you're using is consuming the benefit you're going to get from tracking.
correct, and also it's very expensive because you have to make it very strong to fight the
Right.
wind, especially on rooftops. Whereas in our case, our cells do not interfere with the wind. or the wind is not
Hmm.
impacting them. And therefore, when it comes to tracking, our individual solar cells are going to very inside track the sun very comfortably, and generate a lot more power. So one of the things about the efficiency of these solar cells now is that the solar movement started just like hydrogen or clean energy in the 90s, and there was this renewable energy bubble where we were not quite ready for a transition into renewable energy, so the
Hmm.
market invested in it and then it didn't go
Right.
anywhere. And that's why if you look at the stock market for some of these renewable energy companies like hydrogen companies, you see that in the 90s their share had gone so high up.
And then a super crash.
Yeah. However, this time, because so much investment has gone into not only improving the chemistry of the cells but also improving the manufacturability and financeability of the
Right.
cells and wind and everything else. So now both business and science are working hand in hand to make solar or renewable energy in general more competitive, because both the economics works, but also science is helping with the economics working.
Okay.
So over the past decade, for the first time, because both the efficiency of the cells but also the reliability and the slash business aspect of solar panels have become so great that for the first time solar panels or solar electricity has overcome coal electricity,
Wow.
which has been subsidized for a long time, at least in the
Right.
US. I don't know about the rest of the world. And that shows that all of the investment in both science but also in making sure that the manufacturing is easy, that they're replaceable, that the banks think that it's a safe investment,
Right.
and everything else has worked out. And one of the benefits of that is that now power generators or power plants are not so far from the cities. You When you're driving along highway, you see solar farms everywhere, you see wind turbines along
Sure.
the road, and that's simply the whole idea was to decentralize power
Right.
generation. And that's how you can bring power generation closer to the user, so so much of the electricity is not wasted along the line.